Hey guys, Ethan here from Ethan Our Photo. This is my first video on the channel, but I was thinking that I might start getting into videos on kind of how I edit, maybe even looking at pictures I've done in the past, kind of seeing where I've gotten to from where I started. I have experience in different types of photography. I've done food, travel, portraits. I've really kind of tried many different styles of photography, so kind of how I found my style through that and where I'm at now. So yeah, keep an eye out for more videos, but this is just something that I thought I might start getting into, and we'll see where it goes from here. All right, let's jump right into it. So as you can tell by the title, I thought that for my first video, I would focus on how I edit travel pictures, kind of tropical feeling. As some of you guys might know, I recently moved back from Nicaragua, and I'm actually about to move to Mexico with my family, so I'm kind of getting comfortable with the travel vibe. So I thought that I would kind of share with you guys the way I edit these pictures. Okay, so this is the picture that I chose to kind of show that travel vibe. This was at a beach in Nicaragua, Playa Gigante. It was on the Pacific, this really beautiful beach, and so there was this house on the hill, and I was like, I've got to take a picture of this. This is awesome. So yeah, this is how it came out. This is shot in RAW, and as you can see, it's kind of underexposed, but that's a good thing because when you edit, it's easier to save what's in the shadows than if it's blown out, and then you can't recover anything. So, first thing I'm going to do is kind of expose to the point until you can kind of start seeing more. So I'm just going to raise the exposure just a little bit and bump up the contrast. Now at the top it's kind of bright, so I'm just going to bring down the highlights a little bit, and then I like to bring up the shadows too. That's good. And then to kind of add a little more contrast back, I'll pull up the whites and down the blacks just a little bit. Cool, that looks pretty good. And then I don't need to change the texture or really the clarity all that much because there's no nothing in the picture that needs to be soft. So yeah, don't really need to dehaze the picture. It wasn't super hazy on that day, so I think it's pretty good. What I might try and fix now is the white balance. The picture's looking kind of blue, and when I edit pictures, I like them to have kind of a more warm vibe. So I'm just gonna bring that up a little bit, and that's already looking better. So to some people, this might look kind of too yellow, maybe too warm, maybe not necessarily true to life, but that's kind of how I like to edit, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. I like that yellowish green. I think it just really kind of shows off that travel vibe that I'm going for. All right, and then now we get to tone curve, which is pretty important. Tone curve is basically how you can change each individual light register. So on tone curve, I just made dots at basically every intersection. So we got like the 25%, 50%, and 75%, and that'll give me more control. So I want to bring down the highlights just a little bit so it makes those whites not super white. It's kind of like a light gray, so it kind of cuts that. And then bring up the shadows a little bit too, so the blacks aren't true black. They're just kind of this really dark color. Then I might bring up the highlights just a little bit, and maybe bring down the shadows just to add a little bit more contrast. I'll leave the midtones where they are. I think the picture looks pretty good this way. All right, so the sky is looking kind of purple, so I'm just gonna go into the color and see about changing that to make it a little more on the bluish side. Then I'm gonna turn up the saturation and down the luminance so you can kind of see the sky a little bit better. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the fans on my computer are starting to go crazy. All right, and then, so the yellows I might change a little bit. They're yellow, so I kind of want them to be a little more orange. I might turn down the saturation and up the luminance. Then I go into the oranges. I'm gonna leave the oranges where they're at, actually. Maybe bump up the saturation just a little bit and the luminance. But really, that's pretty good. So we'll see, this is the before and this is the after, so I think that's a pretty good difference, right? Then I go into lens corrections, enable profile corrections, and remove chromatic aberration. This was shot on my 50mm lens, so it already recognizes that, and it kind of fixes that vignetting on the side that I don't want to add. If I do want to add any vignetting, I want to be the one responsible for that. So then we get to calibration. Some people like to use the calibration to kind of give you that teal and orange look. I don't use it so much. I mean, you definitely can if you want to, but I'm not super big on it. I've used it before and I'm kind of out of it now. So I think I like the picture where it's at. One thing that I want to do though is crop it down to 4:5. And then just kind of use the rule of thirds to get this house right in the middle. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave the straightness where it's at. I was playing around with it and it kind of looked crooked every way. So the way I took the picture, I know I was facing it head on, so I might just leave it like that because it's the angle of the rock. But I will crop it down just a little bit so the house is right in the center. Alright, so I'm going to hit done. Just to add a little more contrast, I'm going to add a graduated filter. So I'm going to pull up from the bottom, and I don't want to expose it higher. I'm going to make it a little bit darker, and then move it down a little bit, just so that when the picture kind of goes down, you feel like the rocks at the bottom are really kind of dark and moody. So I'm going to bump up the contrast. See how it looks without it, and then with. I think that's pretty good. Alright, and then I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm just going to make the sky a little bit brighter. Just really kind of add to that contrast. Maybe up to like 0.20. I think that's pretty good. Alright, so then here's the before, here's the after. Right, so I'm pretty content with this photo. I like the way it came out. It has this really light teal and yellow kind of vibe with a little bit of green in there. It really gives off that tropical travel vibe that you can show off on Instagram. These are the kind of colors that I had in mind when I took the picture, when I was there at the beach. This is kind of what I envisioned in my mind, is to have this really light, warm travel picture. So I like this edit. The way it came out, I think that's pretty good. So there you have it. That's how I like to edit my travel photos. I like to really have that kind of teal blue and yellowish green style going on. I don't know, I just really like the way those colors work together, and it's really tropical, and yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and maybe hit the subscribe button. I'd like to be coming out with more content like this in the future. I just really kind of want to show how I like to edit pictures and kind of the process that I go through in my photography, to see if I can help any of you guys out there too. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.